Hello you, it's me. Today we're going to talk about The Crow Road by Iain Banks. I really wasn't sure about how to review this, to be honest, and I really struggled writing notes for this video because it really isn't the kind of thing I usually read. I don't read a lot of contemporary literary slice of life stuff, because mostly it's boring to me. And Banks, in terms of his non-sci-fi stuff, is such a mixed bag guy. You get stuff like Canal Dreams, which is like boring trash. And then you get stuff like The Bridge, which is super surreal and one of the best books I've ever read. This is highly regarded as one of his best novels, and honestly, I'm not sure why. It was okay. The story revolves around a guy called Prentice McCohen and leaps between his childhood, living with his family, and his adult life. I think for most of the book he's 22. As a child, he had pretty much free run of his family's estate in rural Scotland with his two brothers. His father, who is a staunch atheist, spent his days filling the children's heads with these amazing fairy tales and stories, while one of his uncles, Hamish, runs a nearby glass factory, and the other uncle, Rory, disappears for years at a time on his travels around the world and publishes his travels in sort of travelogues. We flash forward to Prentice drawn back from Glasgow to the family home in Gallinack by the death of his gran. He's not speaking to his dad because of religious differences and arguments, and Hamish has invented a new crackpot brand of Christianity that he's trying to indoctrinate Prentice into. And Rory, well, nobody's seen Rory for years now. He picks up with childhood friends, he gets caught up in all the events happening within the family, and at the same time, Prentice is very much going through a crisis of faith, wrestling with the problem of life after death, and really letting his life spin out of control in a really chaotic way because he's too proud to accept help from his family. Firstly, I love the writing style of Banks in this book. The language used is very nice and it's written in a very beautiful way, but god damn, this book was really hard to follow early on. It takes a long time to get into the rhythm of the book because it jumps around so much and it's not really chronologically linear. The characters are the same cast in both past and future, and the only clue you really get is that the present is written in first person from Prentice's perspective, and the past is written in third person and mostly focuses on his dad Kenneth. But initially it doesn't make this very clear, so I had a hard time sort of keeping track of what was what. Once you get into the rhythm of what's actually going on, it becomes quite a swift read. But for a 500-page book to take 200 pages to hook you, is a bit much for me. Because of how much it jumps around, it's a very fractured feeling book. The past and present events do lead into each other sympathetically, and it's almost as if Prentice is recalling these relevant memories as events happen in the present. But each past event and present event do feel very much like individual events with nothing to tie them together story-wise, just one character that is woven through them. Until about page 300. Where the story actually starts 2/3 of the way through the book, and you realise that it's sort of been a setup and the character building was important. But up until that point, it was very jarring to read, and the payoff in this book is late. It feels like a weird slice of life book, but like 300, 400 pages in, there's a genre shift almost, and it becomes, it's not really a spoiler, but this becomes a murder mystery. And it actually feels like the last act is a completely different book. So what I'm saying in regards to this is that I can understand why people would get halfway through this book and DNF it. Also, I could understand why people might be put off initially because the blurb is very misleading. The blurb says, "It was the day my grandmother exploded. I sat in the crematorium listening to my Uncle Hamish quietly snoring in harmony to Bach's Mass in B minor, and I reflected that it always seemed to be death that drew me back to Gallinack." Prentice McCohen has returned to the bosom of his complex but enduring Scottish family. Full of questions about the McCohen past, present and future, he is also deeply preoccupied, mainly with death, sex, drink, God, and illegal substances. ... I don't know, for me, the gran blowing up is really just a device to suck people in, and it's dealt with, it's done within 10 pages, and not mentioned again. It's like a trap using dark humour as bait to draw a reader, and then like shanghaiing you into a completely different book. It does do a good job of capturing rural Scotland very well. There's some language in there that might not be immediately familiar to non-Scots or non-Brits, but it's not on like an Irvine Welsh level. You can work most of it out from context. I don't know if internationally people have a realistic idea of what rural Scotland is like, but for me, picture building while I read this, I was drawing on my own experience, and then Banks is giving me all these like charming little details to really make it a rich landscape picture. I was really impressed with the scene setting. It seems like landscape is really important and really formative to who the members of the family are as people. There's a lot of talk between Prentice and his childhood friend Ash about spiritually important places and sort of environmental reverence almost, which I really liked. I liked Prentice, even though for the most part he's not a likeable character. He's definitely someone you can get on side with. He's funny in a genuine way. He's saying things that he thinks are funny rather than the author trying to crowd please. His interactions with people around him as kids, as students, and as a young adult are very realistic. A lot of the time you're shaking your head at this guy because he's being a dick. He's making like terrible choices. But I think that all readers really are going to have a lot of sympathy for him. The book actually handles a pretty huge cast, covering pretty much the whole McCohen family and the adjoining family that they're married into called the Irvilles. And all the characters really are important people who aren't just name dropped, they are integral to the story, as much as there is a story. Sometimes when I'm reading books, I have to make myself an aid to keep track of stuff, like when I was reading The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, I had to make a little card with all the prayer times on so I could figure out when things were actually happening. But for this one, I had to make a family tree just so I could keep track of the people because there were so many people and they were in like every scene. One of my main issues with the book was that I could see where it was going really early on. And the big reveal that was going to happen right at the end wasn't really surprising, and I feel like it was meant to be. There's sort of a semi-romance subplot going on the whole way through the book that's mentioned right at the start, and immediately you know how it's going to play out. And it has one of my least favourite book tropes in it, which is person chases the wrong person romantically and then realises that for all these years the right person for them has been right under their nose, putting up with years of their crap. I don't like that very much. There's a big theme in this book of nihilism while Prentice wrestles with his faith. And I think there's a big realization in the book that you can argue till you are blue in the face about whether there's an afterlife or not. It's really unprovable either way, so it's a moot argument to have. But what you can say is that when you die, you aren't there for the people you were there for before. So this book really hammers in that your relationships with the people around you are the most important thing while you're alive. The book really talks about how death can either denounce or reaffirm your faith, depending on the circumstance and who it is and who they are to you, and that maybe trying to find a specific reason to exist or the reason you're alive is probably detrimental. The title of the book, The Crow Road, is an expression used by Prentice's grandmother, and it means someone that's dead. If someone's away on the Crow Road, they're dead. I think it's a really gorgeous expression. I like it a lot. I think while it's not the genre I usually read, the reason a lot of Banks's literary stuff appeals to me is that he often writes about characters that are going through a period of confusion, or characters that are directionless. I don't know if that's something he liked to write about or something that he experienced, but he puts it on paper really well. If you haven't read Less Than Zero by Bret Easton Ellis, it has a very similar feel to a lot of Banks's literary stuff. But I definitely resonate a lot with characters like that, and it can hit me in a really weird place. So I'm going to give this book 3 stars, but like a low 3 stars, like 3.1. Honestly, I just so prefer his sci-fi over his slice of life stuff. But it's worth a read if you like literary stuff, I guess. It's well written, it's pretty. A lot was probably lost on me because it's not the genre I read a lot. But if you like it, maybe it's for you. If you've read it, let me know what you think down in the comments. Maybe I missed stuff and didn't appreciate it properly. Who knows? Not me. I won't read this again. So thanks very much for watching. Sorry about the bad lighting. It's winter, so it's going to be like this till January. Maybe even later. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Content warnings for this book also down below. Follow me on Twitter. The link is down below. What are you reading right now? Let me know. Thanks very much for watching, and more reviews coming soon. Hope you have a good day. Bye.